The Elder Scrolls II: Daggerfall was released in 1996, and to this day is the most ambitious game of the Elder Scrolls series in terms of game depth and size. I only found out about the game a few years ago from watching YouTuber and Elder Scrolls lore master Zarek Zakharon's playthroughs of the game. Zarek himself has stated that Daggerfall would be his favorite game in the series if not for the game's general bugginess. Despite the general bugginess Zarek describes, Daggerfall has since managed to captivate me, and I have spent hours playing through the game's numerous quests and dungeon crawls. One thing you will notice upon playing Daggerfall is that despite the enormous landmass you can explore, everything becomes a bit repetitive. While there are differences in the game's overworld, ranging from high rock seasonal European-themed forests and towns, Sentinel's Arabian-themed deserts, and the Rothgardian Mountains' alpine environment, the game's randomly generated content limits the potential of the game through the bugginess of the randomization and repetitive overworld stretches of land. Despite the game boasting over 40 kingdoms to explore, with over 100 towns per kingdom, the repetitiveness of the environment makes the fact that the game relies on randomization readily apparent. So, if the game is repetitive due to randomization and can be buggy at times, I keep asking myself, why do I like Daggerfall so much? Why, when I can play Morrowind, Oblivion, or Skyrim, do I keep coming back to Daggerfall, investing hours in exploring if the randomly generated content makes the game repetitive? Why is there currently a team of people who have been working voluntarily to recreate the game in the Unity engine in order to modernize it due to their love of this game? This video is me attempting to answer this question. Immersion is definitely the major reason why I keep coming back to Daggerfall. This game can best be described as a fantasy life simulator. If you want an example of how much choice you have in Daggerfall, you can decide not to do the main quest. When you first get out into the overworld, you will receive a letter asking you to meet a contact at an inn. You can decide to ignore this quest and go about your own adventures with the guilds or knightly orders. The quest will then disappear after 30 days and you will never be able to complete the main quest after this. It's a small detail, but it brings a sense of immersion in that you can choose to ignore Uriel's septum entirely in the quest he has sent you on. There are also banks in the game where you can take out loans, buy houses and ships. Gold has weight, so you will be going to the bank often to deposit your money just as you would in the real world. When you travel to another town or region, it takes days of in-game time, not hours. The landmass is realistic in size, which entices you to go exploring. All in all, player immersion is likely the #1 reason why I keep coming back to Daggerfall. You can think of Daggerfall as a reverse Skyrim when it comes to RPG mechanics. Where Skyrim simplified everything, Daggerfall made it complex, which allows for a far greater number of specific character builds. Daggerfall has 35 skills to master, compared to Skyrim's 18. That's almost double. Adding to this is the unique weaknesses and strength settings that allow you to completely customize your character, which I feel is the #2 reason why I like Daggerfall. With unique strengths and weaknesses, you can create a character that can't use leather armor and axes, but has a high 3x intelligence magic account, expertise in long blade, and immunity to fire magic. This type of customization leads to very interesting character builds that I cannot for the life of me understand why it has not been included in later Elder Scrolls games. There are even language skills in the game that allow you to converse with enemies such as orcs and giants. Having the appropriate skill will make them back off and you won't have to fight. This seems like such a minor detail, but in my opinion, this makes your character much more interesting and unique. The many skills allow your character to excel in some skills while lacking in others, which I believe is better than the Skyrim standard in which you can be the master of everything if you want. There are of course complaints about the attack-defense system in Daggerfall. Essentially it works by initiating dice rolls in the background every time you attack and defend. If you pass the check, you get a hit and your stats determine how much damage, if any, you do, or how much damage you take. Is this a bit tedious? Sure. but the way Daggerfall animates the weapon swings and uses sounds such as clashing blades makes it feel much more natural than, say, Morrowind, which had the same problem. So, to conclude, the deep RPG mechanics and customization of your character are definitely a reason to keep playing Daggerfall. Now, I know this one might sound a bit silly. Movement speed? But hear me out. One major problem I have with Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind is that the movement speed is just too damn slow. Is the game deep and involving? Yes, but getting from point A to point B with no fast travel other than specific point-to-point travel can be extremely tedious. Daggerfall does not have this problem. When you run, the speed feels just right. When you stealth around corners and dungeons, the speed feels just right. When you get on a horse and hightail it through the massive cities, the speed feels just right. It keeps the game engaging and the play fluid nearly at all times. It can be said that there is too much fast travel in Daggerfall, mainly due to the massive distance in between cities and towns that are basically just the same randomly generated territory. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the game has a massive sense of scope and scale, and the character movement is in sync with that and allows you to move through the world with purpose. In general, Daggerfall gives me a feeling of exploration and freedom that I don't feel as strongly with the later Elder Scrolls games. When I first started playing the game, I stayed in Daggerfall to quest with the various guilds. After doing this for a while, I finally decided to take a ship to Sentinel. Arriving in Sentinel, the feeling I got was one of genuine exploration. I felt like Daggerfall really was a long way away. Compare this to Oblivion, where the distance from the Imperial City to one of the outer towns feels like such a short hike away. This feeling has not been created in any other Elder Scrolls game since Daggerfall. I understand why to an extent. The random generation can be buggy and the content gets repetitive, which is the reason why the game is so expansive, but I would love for a modern Elder Scrolls game to take the randomization of Daggerfall to create a massive world and improve upon it so that feeling of genuine exploration is back again. This is chiefly why I'm so glad the Daggerfall Workshop project exists, as with it Daggerfall is being modernized through Daggerfall Unity and a mods option has been implemented allowing unlimited custom content. This means that the potential of Daggerfall Unity is virtually limitless. I will be going over Daggerfall Unity mods in a future video and their potential to improve upon the base game released over 20 years ago. Well guys, that's it for this video. It's one of my first videos attempting to do a normal type of video where I'm just talking about something related to Daggerfall. I do have a big passion for Daggerfall. I think it's a very unique game that hasn't been replicated. Like the games are these days. You have a game like Skyrim where the game is completely outstanding in some aspects, but then when it comes to what Daggerfall offered, which was very detailed RPG mechanics and a really expansive open world that creates this fantasy life simulator, we don't really see that with games anymore. We see more of an action RPG where you have a sandbox to play in, and it doesn't feel like a fantasy life, but it feels more like a Grand Theft Auto type experience. So I really hope that Daggerfall Unity project keeps going. It's looking great so far, and yeah, that's about it. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next one.